For decades, low-income urban households have been highly exposed to the volatility of the real estate market. When property values spike, these residents face rent hikes and rapid displacement, lacking the capital to secure their own tenure. Conversely, when the market crashes, the result is equally devastating. The physical homes remain, but the households are hollowed out by financial leverage. A nearly identical vulnerability is playing out far from the city, in rural agricultural land. Here, the immediate threat of foreclosure is compounded by a looming demographic crisis, the physical succession of agricultural property. This split-screen data visualization outlines the dual problem. On the left, as the average Oregon farmer reaches age 60, 64% of the state's farmland will transition ownership. On the right, the bar chart isolates the widening wealth gap between urban homeowners and renters. Whether it is an apartment in San Francisco or a working farm in the Willamette Valley, acquiring land at open market rates demands prohibitive upfront capital. The conventional ownership model fails marginalized populations because it requires individuals to prove they are bankable to commercial lenders. This failure stems from how we legally define property. The standard approach is fee-simple ownership, a system that bundles all the rights to a piece of real estate into a single package. Under fee-simple, when you purchase property, you buy this single unified block. But real estate serves two entirely different economic functions. It has a functional use value, providing a physical place to live or grow food. Simultaneously, it holds a speculative market value, operating as an investment asset expected to appreciate. When the speculative value surges, the functional use becomes unaffordable. To preserve affordable housing and active agriculture, policymakers have to systematically unbundle these traditional property rights. The solution splits this block in two. We separate the functional use right on top from the underlying speculative land right on the bottom. Permanently severing the speculative land right from the functional use right is the structural mechanism required to shield essential land from destabilizing market forces. In the urban housing sector, this unbundling is executed through a community land trust, or CLT. Here, the land right is extracted and held by a nonprofit steward. The use right, the actual physical home, is purchased by an individual household. The two are tethered by a ground lease that caps the resale price of the home. While this successfully suppresses speculation, the standalone CLT has a critical limitation. The individual household still has to qualify for a conventional retail mortgage to buy their half of the equation, which continues to exclude unbankable low-income buyers. An alternative model solves this financing problem, the Limited Equity Cooperative, or LEC. Here, a cooperative owns the entire building. Instead of a mortgage, residents buy a low-cost share that splits into a democratic voting right and a dwelling unit, with strict equity return caps. The LEC provides autonomy and collective financing, but it introduces a new vulnerability. Isolated cooperatives are historically fragile. They require immense internal organizational capacity to maintain the building and prevent the corporation from dissolving over time. Operating independently, neither the CLT nor the LEC possesses both the permanent fiscal backstop and the organizational durability required to eliminate the capital barrier for the lowest income residents. This operational gap led to an innovation in shared equity, the merger of the CLT and the LEC into a single hybrid project. This hybrid stacks the frameworks to divide responsibilities. The CLT assumes the role of legal steward and fiscal backstop, while the LEC retains the title to the building itself and manages participatory governance. By having an established nonprofit act as a guarantor, the project can secure a collective blanket mortgage. This financial engineering negates the need for individual residents to obtain retail bank financing entirely. Directing attention. This matrix illustrates the result in practice at the Cooper Square Mutual Housing Association. The project encompasses 328 units, and because of the hybrid structure, the entry barrier, the initial share price, was driven down to just $500. Through this specific structure, Cooper Square achieved economies of scale for low-income residents, maintaining strict affordability in the middle of one of the most highly speculative real estate markets on the planet. Stacking these legal frameworks drastically lowers the financial threshold. It grants unbankable populations access to stable tenure without exposing the community to the risk of cooperative collapse. The exact same unbundling logic applies to the rural sector. Between 2002 and 2012, average origin farmland values spiked to $1,882 per acre, effectively pricing a new generation of beginning farmers and ranchers out of the market. To keep this rural landscape in active production, the property rights must be separated. The direct rural equivalent of the urban CLT is the working land easement. In conventional rural real estate, the price of a farm is rarely based solely on the crops it can produce. It is artificially inflated by the invisible pressure of its potential to be sold, subdivided, and paved over for future residential development. The working land easement physically extracts those development rights from the fee simple bundle. These specific rights are transferred to an entity like the Oregon Agricultural Trust, holding them permanently so the land cannot be subdivided. With the development rights secured by the trust, the remaining block, the farming rights, can be safely transferred to an incoming farmer. The immediate economic consequence is a severe drop in the property's purchase price. Stripping away the development potential forces the land's market value to align strictly with its functional agricultural production value. Severing the development rights from the farming rights perfectly aligns the cost of acquiring the land with the actual capital capacity of a new generation of agricultural producers. However, these structural economics have a definitive limiting factor. The absolute prerequisite for any of these hybrid or shared equity models to succeed is known as social feasibility. When unbundled ownership models fail, it is rarely due to their financial mechanics. They fail when resident commitment fades and democratic self-governance breaks down. Research from the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy confirms this. In their evaluation of active projects, they found that resident-initiated organizing and early consensus building were mandatory predictors of long-term survival. Sophisticated legal and financial engineering provides a stable foundation, but it is entirely useless without the organized human capacity required to actually steward the asset over generations. When that human capacity is supported, the economics of land tenure stabilize. From the urban density of San Francisco and New York to the agricultural expanse of rural Oregon, a network of community-stewarded land is expanding. These shared equity models prove we do not have to accept the binary choice of either renting or owning fee-simple property. Instead, we can utilize a highly adaptable spectrum of subdivided property rights. To function at scale, this system requires three distinct variables: verified social feasibility, legally enforceable master leases, and neutral third-party stewardship. When these three parameters are met, the model self-sustains. As global real estate becomes increasingly financialized, leaving housing and agriculture to the open market guarantees displacement. Preserving affordability and productive land requires active, institutionalized legal firewalls that permanently prioritize human use over speculative profit.